The only reason I decided to make this video was because I wanted to draw attention to how toxic the that girl trend can be on young women. And I know what you're probably thinking. The that girl trend is there to inspire, and there's nothing damaging about a little video featuring upbeat trendy music with maybe a little voiceover in the background talking about your aesthetic lifestyle. There's nothing inherently evil about your Pinterest-worthy photos or assumptions of that girl. But my problem with all of that is that it's creating the idea that that girl is perfect. And in order to be happy, feel beautiful, or feel at peace in your life, you must do and live and act as that girl. What happens when you don't have enough money to afford the that girl lifestyle? Or you simply don't look like that girl? The women I see making this type of content are always the same. They're skinny, white, and wealthy. They also seem so desperate to become influencers that they make content that makes women feel bad about themselves, causing them to compare and just covet other people's lives. I know this because every time I've seen that sort of content, it's caused me to go into a downward spiral and has made me believe that if I wasn't living a life similar to theirs, then I wasn't of value, I wasn't successful, and I wasn't happy. I was almost afraid of who I'd become if I wasn't trying to become that girl. We as humans, especially women, have been conditioned to believe that we can always be better. We can exercise more, eat healthier, have a more rigorous skincare routine, trendier lifestyle, and live an aesthetically pleasing life. But guess what? This kind of logic is so unhealthy. Becoming that girl, or the definition that the world has attached to it, isn't going to bring you the self-validation that you think it will. It's only going to lead to more comparison, discouragement, burnout, and inadequacy. And I'm guilty of consuming this type of content and trying to become that kind of girl. In recent months, I've been putting so much effort and mental space into becoming that girl that it's eventually led to an unnecessary mental breakdown. I found myself one day sobbing to my husband, saying that it was impossible for me to maintain that sort of lifestyle. And I'm embarrassed to say that I genuinely felt sadness and guilt for not being able to maintain that girl image, and for not feeling good enough to even become that girl. In that moment, though, I realized I needed to stop. I would never want my friend, my sister, or even my future daughter to feel worthless because they felt like they weren't good enough to be this perfect girl. I'm not saying that the digital world or the voices you find there are all bad, but just being more aware of the type of content that we're consuming and not being afraid to just opt out when we feel like it's starting to take a toll on our mental health. A few things that I've been practicing that have allowed me to feel like I'm more in control have been just placing boundaries in my life. If a creator's stuff, content, logic makes me feel not very good about myself, then they're gonna get blocked or muted. Also, remember to take everything with a grain of salt. Just because that person's aesthetics are immaculate doesn't mean that they're not depressed or having the worst day of their life. Another thing to remember is that sometimes it's people's job to sell you on this idea of the perfect girl or the perfect lifestyle. They act like they're pros in their specific field, but no one is really a pro in anything, so don't take the messaging as literal truth and doctrine. No fancy matcha tea recipe, Stanley Cup, or Lulu's is gonna make you feel totally fulfilled on its own, so just go live your own life in your own terms. And if you're really craving some sort of model to live your life, then choose women in your life that actually inspire you. Women that have nothing to gain from you adopting their characteristics or healthy practices. When I think of inspiring women, I think of my mom, my aunt, both of my grandmas, my sisters. Each and every one of these women has had its set of trials and has continued to show up no matter how dark it got in their individual lives. They all live life in a way that's so genuine and inspiring, and those are the kind of role models I want to become like. In my mind, that girl is someone who is nice, someone who's a good listener. That girl is a good friend. That girl is also someone who is confident, who knows her worth and knows it doesn't come from anyone or anything, but that it comes from within. That girl is a hard worker and does her best in everything she does, while also respecting her own boundaries. That girl is a role model. She uplifts those around her and is a shoulder to cry on. I'm lucky enough to know women in my life who fit these attributes, and I hope you too can recognize the wonderful women in yours.